Hi, I'm Rick, and this is Derek, and thanks for watching us today. Do you ever find it difficult to hear God's voice? Ever had a big decision that you need to make and really found it just hard to hear from God? Maybe you asked Him, but then thoughts entered your head and it was hard to tell whether or not it was God, or maybe your emotions, or maybe the pizza that was talking to you that you had last night. Sometimes it seems so difficult to hear from God. Well, we're going to talk about this and a lot more because this is a special episode because Derek is leaving us.
I know it. It's sad.
I can't believe you're leaving us. We're going to talk to him about all of this and all of his memorable times that he's had here at Hope and so much more. And we want you to just stay tuned as we kind of expose this whole thing about hearing from God.
Before we jump into it, will you hit the like, subscribe, and share button? It really helps make a difference, and you can also partner with us in sharing the good news about Jesus when you give using any of these 3 safe and secure ways. Now watch this and we'll be right back.
Well, we're in a series called He Promises, where we've been talking about some major promises of Jesus to us, like how He promises to love us no matter what, or how He promises to be with us always. And today, we want to glance at how He promises that we can hear His voice. In fact, 3 weeks ago, maybe you know this, Derek, maybe you don't, but 12,000 people heard from God to take the plunge and get baptized in California. It was the largest baptism ever in U.S. history. That's an amazing thing.
It is amazing.
6,000 of those people were in Huntington Beach at one place, all being baptized.
That's amazing.
That's an incredible time. So, Jesus said these words. In fact, Derek, will you read this main verse that we're looking at today?
Yeah, this is from John, the 10th chapter. Jesus said, "But the one who enters through the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep recognize his voice and come out to him. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. After he has gathered his own flock, he walks ahead of them, and they follow him because they know his voice."
Now, what insights can you give us about these verses?
So what's amazing is in first century Israel, what the shepherds would do is they would have a pen for the sheep called the sheep pen. And it was gated. It was protected. It was safe. It was away from where there could be any predators or any type of danger. It's where the sheep were comfortable. But you notice what Jesus says. The gatekeeper opens the gate for the shepherd. Yeah. And the sheep follow the shepherd's voice. What they're doing is they're going from safety into danger. But Jesus knows that it's only when you're willing to take risks and listen for His voice to guide you, that He's going to guide you to some areas that might be frightening, that might be a little scary, might be uncomfortable. But that's where pasture is. That's where the green pastures and still waters are. And so you have to have a whole lot of trust when you're listening to the voice of Jesus. Right. Because you're going from that sheep pen, that gate. The gate is opened, and they trust in their shepherd, just as we're called to trust in Jesus.
Yeah.
And how do you trust in Jesus? You listen for His voice.
And Derek, you heard from God. You heard God's voice at a real early age. Maybe you remember you saying this a while back. Watch this.
When I was in kindergarten, a sheet of paper that I filled out that said, "When I grow up, I'm going to be a pastor." And I wrote in crayon. I've got the S backwards on it. But I've wanted to be a pastor as long as I can remember. I'm originally from Minnesota. I lived out here from 2008 to 2012. I was the associate pastor at Hope, went back to Minnesota after my 2 young sons were born, and came back here about 3 years ago now.
I can't believe that you heard from God at such an early age. How old were you?
Yeah, I was kindergarten, maybe even preschool or before. I'm cleaning out my office as I'm moving on, and I'm finding these little Jesus books and pictures that I bought with the first time I ever got allowance. So wow. I was always felt called into the ministry and to be a pastor.
This is amazing. See, there's sometimes in our life where when we don't know which way to go, we can feel that urging of, we could say it's the Holy Spirit or the voice of God or the voice of Jesus.
Yep.
But there's that urging to know, even though it might be scary, like those verses we're talking about, it could be scary, but that voice gives us a peace that this is the right way to go.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me if there were other pastors in my family. And I often say, with my family, we needed a pastor. And I think maybe that's why God gave me that voice and that call into ministry. But yeah, it took a lot of trust.
Well, back when you came with your family, Derek, maybe you do or don't remember, your kids were a lot smaller than they are now. Here's what they looked like back then.
Man, I was so much younger. I wish I could look like that again.
Kids are so much smaller.
I know.
Right? Well, what's been some memorable times for you, Derek, just being here at Hope?
There's so much memorable times being here at Hope, both big moments and small moments. For one, I love the idea of Nick, our student minister here at Hope. I was working as a crossing guard at the school next door when this big guy with a bunch of tattoos, smoking, was coming up, and I stopped him, and we just got to chatting and found out that he liked to cook. We had a kitchen. I needed a chef and invited him in, and I just kind of was hearing this voice, as we say, hearing the voice of God, that this is a place where I think Nick is going to find a family, where Nick is going to find hope, where Nick can find Jesus. And thankfully, Nick heard that same voice and was listening, and he came, and the way his life has changed has just been incredible.
It's been really incredible.
But what's really incredible to me is that the people here at Hope, you can take a look at a guy with a bunch of tattoos and immediately judge this guy. People here at Hope welcomed him in, nurtured him, supported him. And that was a very memorable moment for me, because it's that God was speaking to all of us. Right?
Yeah.
In order for that to work, we'd all have to be hearing his voice. And then the same thing with you and Gerald, bringing you on here at Hope.
Yeah. We got a picture about that in just a second. We're gonna talk about that. But before that, you were given an award in the Valley. Here's the picture of when they took that. When was that?
That's a horrible picture.
When was that?
That was a couple years ago in the Palm Springs Life 40 under 40. So I was considered one of the 40 under 40 here in the Coachella Valley.
And that was when? 2018? 16?
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. It was a while ago.
Well, I'm 42 now, so
yeah.
It was somewhere before that.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, okay, so you brought up about when there was a moment where us three guys, we'll show you this picture right now, and kind of explain this moment.
Yeah, so this moment is us getting together, getting ready to launch our modern service. And it was a huge change for Hope at the time, because we'd had our traditional service for so long. It had been going very well. It was continuing to grow and to thrive. But there was just, once again, listening to God's voice.
Yeah.
We wanted to reach a new group of people. Maybe people who aren't comfortable in the traditional service. Maybe people who like to worship in a different way. How can we let them know about Jesus? And so bringing you and Gerald on has made a huge difference. I think has changed our ministry completely. And
there was another moment there where you had to hear God's voice, right? I mean, that was a risky thing.
Yes, it was.
Right?
Well, what happened is, I had heard about what was happening in some of the other churches, and Gerald had come to worship with us once, and I thought, oh my gosh, what if we invited him to join our team to help launch this modern service? And whenever I think I'm hearing God's voice, but I'm not sure, I go to my wife.
Yeah.
And so I ask my wife, and normally she's like, that's not God's voice, you're crazy, move on. But she said, that sounds like a tremendous idea. And so then we just kind of rolled from it there. That's when we started conversations and figuring out how this would work. So it was really relying on God's voice to guide us and lead us.
And 7 years later, we're reaching a whole group of people.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
That's great. Well, you've had some fun times as well here at Hope. For example, like getting together every Monday and playing basketball with a bunch of guys here at Hope. Here's Derek playing basketball, hoping that he would get a shot in or whatever. But
playing basketball.
Yeah. And every year we have a volunteer appreciation dinner, for example. And Derek, I don't know if you remember this, but this is you having fun at that volunteer appreciation dinner. Watch this.
began. I didn't get to know it, but then I know it's growing strong. Here we go. Wasn't spring, but I know that part. And inside came the summer. Who would have believed you'd come along?
That was awful.
So Derek, what do you think about
That
that?
was terrible. I can't believe you recorded that. That was supposed to be a safe space. But that's
Yeah.
one of the things I do want to say. I want to thank all of our volunteers at Hope. I mean, we've got so many people that work so hard to make sure that this ministry is continuing. And that's one of the things I'm going to miss most, are the wonderful volunteers that we have here that have a heart for Jesus, that are listening God's voice and are helping shepherd this ministry forward. So thank you to all of our volunteers and to everyone
Yeah.
that makes this possible.
Now, your final send-off. This is it. What is it that you want to tell everybody online that call Hope their place, their church, and people that are on campus? What do you want to say to them?
I want to say thank you. I want to thank our amazing council, our amazing staff, volunteers, and you. I mean, you have uplifted me through this ministry and my time here, and you have helped me to see new ways in which we can share Jesus. So you are all making a difference, and I know that the Holy Spirit is going to continue to speak to the people of Hope, guiding you into a brighter future than you could ever ask for or imagine. All we have to do is continue to listen for God's voice. And I know that you will be hearing that voice and sharing that voice with others.
That's so true. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to miss you.
I'm going to miss you too.
Well, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next week. Well, at least Derek won't, but I will see you next week, either online or on campus.
Hey, you better bet I'll be watching with you.
All right. See you guys later.